Oh, we are live, or undead, or whatever you would consider
Or something.
Haunter to be.
I like it when my haunters breathe and they do things.
I am your Haunter, Luke. Prepare to die. Or
Ex-
something like that.
Something like that.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're watching Tanner's Haunted Secrets
on the Outline Network.
What they say.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's a secret sound hidden deep within the center of the earth. Until you listen closely enough, you can hear it. And it sounds like razors through flesh. We are merely here to turn up the volume.
Hello, 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 and welcome to our corner of the freak show. I am so not Pyle Hazard. He's over here.
He's right there. What timing? What fantastic timing.
Well, I'm trying. I went to Spookery, had a great time at Spookery.
Yay.
Hopefully there's not too much backfeed.
Not yet.
Doesn't sound that bad.
Okay, so you can't hear all the motion in the car?
Nope, just your voice.
No.
Awesome. That makes me feel a heck of a lot better because honestly, I've got this like tucked right at the roof. That way it'll absorb as much sound as it can without being like jumbled in the car.
Sounds good.
Well, welcome to your own show, Pyle.
I know, right? And I was hoping I would be able to jump in, but we got done at Spookery and we got on the road and I just stopped and got fuel and I was like, woohoo, there we go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ron Gillespie, and we have a wonderful show for you tonight featuring our special guest, Pyle Hazard of Tanner's Haunted Secrets.
Wait a second. I thought we were supposed to be interviewing you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tanner's Haunted Secrets, where we are all confused, and I think we're actually supposed to be interviewing Ronald W Gillespie Jr. You can read him and you can get scared by him all in the same day.
You can also get whipped by him.
If you're lucky, or if you ask really nicely.
He likes to whip and he likes to nay-nay.
The nay-nay on the nay-nay, my damie.
Yes. So he offers a wide range of services for you. More than I even know. But anyway, I still want to know, what was the catalyst to get you started haunting?
What is a catalyst that got me started haunting? Now, before I actually go into the story of how I started haunting, I will say that there were a couple of events in my lifetime where I had the opportunity to visit haunts or to be associated with a haunt in an actor respect. But at that point in time, I never considered myself a haunt actor or even considered it as a possible job or hobby. And while I'm getting a lot of background noise, road noise.
Yeah.
There you go. He muted. So, um, first off, my first haunted house experience was when I was about 10-ish, 11 years old. I went with my dad to a haunted house. We can get into that a little bit later if you're interested. And then I had another haunted house experience, I think when I was more in high school, uh, from one of the local people that put on a home haunt. And then, of course, another one when I was in college that my dorm put on. And so all of those, I've had some introduction to haunts, but it never occurred to me that this was something that I could do. I never pursued it. Then it didn't really happen for me until I moved up here to Ohio. I was dating a girl named Katie at the time, and she was from here, so she knew about my first haunt, the Scaratorium, which was located in Dublin, Ohio, and operated uh, 2008 to 2017, roughly thereabouts. I went with Katie as a customer in 2011 and had a fantastic time. It was freezing that night, and there was no heat in the building. Uh, so I'm like bundled up in this big jacket and walking through, and I had never seen like a professional haunted house put on to this magnitude or this intensity, and it was just great. Then we're walking home after we leave the haunt, and Katie says that would be a really fun place to work, fun job to have. And I said, well, you should watch and see when they are doing auditions for next year, and we can go check it out. So, and that was that. And then July came around next year, and I see an ad for them that they're doing auditions. And I texted Katie and I said, hey, Scaratorium is giving auditions today. I'm going to go by there after I get off work. And Katie's like, well, I'm at work until such and such time. And, I'll come join you after I get off work. So I went down and I got there early. I got there at like 3 p.m. and the auditions didn't start until 5. So I ride up on my bike, and the owner of the haunt, founder, creator of the Scaratorium, the man, my mentor, uh, just an all-around great person, excellent teacher, great leader, Kelly Collins. He comes out. I said, I'm here to audition. He's like, well, we're not having auditions till 5, but if you're going to stick around, if you want to be put to work, I certainly have things for you to do. I said, show me what you need to do. And Kelly said, have you ever run an electrical cable before? And I said, nope. He's like, well, it's not that hard. I'll show you what to do. So I spent the next 2 to 3 hours running an electrical cable across the top of the haunt, hooking up speakers, hooking up lights, just doing stuff, manual labor, that needed to be done, not really knowing what all this was leading to. And then 5 o'clock comes around. It's time for the auditions. A lot of people showing up, and they had a panel. And 3 people were sitting on the panel. It was Kelly's wife, Nina, and uh, Robin and Jim Culbertson, who were 2 other actors in The Haunt. Now, I think I've said this before, but if it had been me sitting on that panel watching my audition, I would not have hired me. It was that bad. But I have never auditioned for anything before in my life. I don't know how to do an audition. I've never done an audition before. What am I supposed to do? And they're like, "Do you have any haunt experience?" And I said, "No." I said, "Well, can you do any characters?" I said, "Well, I guess I could do a zombie." And they're like, "Okay, let's see that." So I did my best version of a zombie walk, and Jim says, "That's not really what we're looking for." And I said, "Well, I could do a hillbilly. I mean, I'm from North Carolina, grew up around the accent all the time." And he goes, "Okay, show us that." And I immediately broke into this. What was the comedian's name? Real Southern comedians like, "Shoot yeah, buddies! I can come get you a big bowl of chitlins and hog jaws, and we're gonna have a good old time down here in the holler and have a good old barbecue." And Jim goes, "Well, okay, I guess we can work with that." So I said, "Okay." Still really had no idea what the hell I was doing or what I was supposed to be doing. I could do manual labor. That's fine. You want me to build wall panels for your haunt? I can do that. And now I know how to run electrical cable. So I could do that. Then I this is when I started paying attention. All right. So I got the job, but we still had several months until haunt season started. And I had never done any acting whatsoever in my life. So I showed up every day just to help build or clean or move props around or do heavy lifting. It didn't really matter what it was. I just did it. Kelly would say, "Do this." And I would say, "Okay." And I did it. And then we finally get around to actor training. Never had actor training before. I don't know what this entails. So another our chief makeup artist and also a commensurate actor in his own right, Keith Newsom, great guy, just an incredible artist, very cool person. He's leading us through the haunt. We have a small group. We're going through the haunt scene by scene, and he's telling everybody like what kind of stuff you can do here, what kind of characters we're looking for, and giving everybody about 60 seconds to come up with something to improvise in that scene. Now, some of the people that were in that group that had already acted before, uh, so they didn't really have any problems with it. And I'm watching these people like, oh my God, they're good. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know if I can do that. And I'm starting to question myself. I'm beginning to wonder if I can do this at all. I'm not the kind of person that can put myself out there. I'm not the kind of person that wants to draw attention to myself. And I'm like, well, we're getting toward the end of the haunt, and we start to pass through our hillbilly scene. And now it's come down to everybody has gone except me. I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background. She's whining. Probably going to have to throw her out of the room.
Here, Ori.
Come here. Little haunter kitty. Yeah, say hi. There you go. All right, go on. So we get to the hillbilly scene, and I'm like, okay, it's now or never. I got to do something. I don't really have a choice at this point because everybody else is gone. I don't know what to do. And then they're all about to head out of the scene and move on, and I'm sort of stuck behind. I'm like, okay, come on, Ron, you got to come up with something. And then I just opened my mouth and shit came out. It was like, you, what are you doing in my swamp? You's trespassing. We don't take kindly to trespassers around here. Don't bother calling nobody on that little telephone. Ain't gonna work down here. I'm just gonna throw your eyeballs in a pot and eat them in a soup. And as I did it, my body just reacted. I started getting closer and closer to this one girl in the group, this girl named Miranda, and she was a veteran actor. She had already done her bit. And she was great, and I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I'm like slowly creeping up closer to her, and then like I'm like, gouge out your little eyeballs, and the look on Miranda's face was like, where you kind of suck your face back into your head. Like, what is this motherfucker gonna do? And I finished, and she looks at me and she goes, "You're good." And I was like, like this whole just whoosh of relief, just. So that was, I guess, my official audition into haunting with that particular bit. And then I didn't say much. I just kind of started watching other people, seeing how they would act, and the fact that, they were able to just be out there and be vibrant and be dynamic and just crazy energy. So because I did a good job in that hillbilly scene with that's kind of how they pegged me. That's where they put me. I said, okay, since you've never acted before, you can run the chainsaw. I'm like, okay. They put me in this slaughterhouse scene, and there's plastic flaps. You walk into the scene, and there's a green light that's mounted right above the doorway. So it blinds the people as they come in, and they can't see anything past the green light until they round the corner. So I crouch down in a corner with chainsaw. I can see them perfectly fine when they pass right in front of the light. I can see them perfectly fine. So that was my cue. When they would round that corner into the green light, then I would jump out, rev the chainsaw, and just scare the shit out of people because they're not expecting it. And then open my mouth, and shit starts coming out just with the whole you're in my swamp, this is my slaughterhouse, I'm going to feed you to my piggies, just bullshit. I don't even know, just random stuff coming out of my mouth. And then I realized that I was competing with the noise of the chainsaw for dialogue. You run a chainsaw, you don't necessarily have to use dialogue because it's loud enough to speak for itself. But I was using dialogue even with the chainsaw and competing. So my voice was getting shot just from the constant speaking and using that voice, the character voice. So then they realized that maybe I had the gift of gab, and they moved me from the chainsaw scene in the slaughterhouse to the main hillbilly scene, which was kind of decorated like a shack and all of that, to see how well I would do with dialogue. And it went great. Suddenly the creative juices are flowing, and we had a deer carcass It was an actual deer carcass that somebody had taxidermied and then sliced it in half, put great stuff all over it, and then painted it red to make it look like blood and guts were spilling out of the deer carcass. But it was an actual deer carcass. It was a real deer carcass. They just covered it in great stuff, so it looked like blood and guts on it. And it was on a table. I had it sitting on a table. And I had this foam plastic hatchet that I would act like I was cutting into the deer carcass and all of that. And that went really well. I'd turn around and jump and threaten the people as they were coming through. But the whole time, the dialogue just kept coming, and I don't know where it was coming from. I never really thought about it, that I was actually doing it, and it sort of led me to my method of haunting, and we can get into that later and start talking about that. So I went that whole season just trying different things, from hillbilly, learning how to walk like a zombie, how to do a mannequin scare, and just everything. I'm a very physical actor, and keep in mind, this was 2012, and I had just turned 40 years old. 40 years old, and I'm just getting started in acting. I mean, that's kind of late in life to come to it. A lot of people have been acting a long time, before they turn 40. And I'm just starting out, and I'm trying everything. I want to learn how to do all of this stuff and be a good character actor and stretch my range and see what I can do, what I'm good at. And one of my absolute favorite scenes, because I kept watching it night after night, was the autopsy room, where we would have somebody on the table. Uh, we had a girl. I can't remember her name, honestly, but she was diabetic, and she had lost one of her legs to diabetes, and she was cool with latex gore effects and all of that. So she would lay on a table, and they would make her leg up like it had been amputated and all of that, and then they would have somebody in there to play, the doctor that was chopping her leg off and whatnot, and she would be laying on the table screaming, help me, all that kind of stuff. So she was gone one night, and I asked Kelly if I could do that scene, and he's like, sure. So I had we had this makeup artist. Her name was Tall Cat, because she was very tall. She was like 6'5", but great makeup artist. She did this latex appliance across my chest to make it look like an autopsy scar. And I've got pictures of it. It actually kind of looks like the Darnie Darko rabbit. It's supposed to be an autopsy, opened up the chest cavity autopsy scar before you break the ribs, and all covered blood and everything. And it was really cool looking. So I'm laying on the table with this autopsy scar. Now, I have a lot of chest hair. And they put this latex appliance over my chest hair, and I've never had latex done before. How was I supposed to know that was a bad idea? So then we get Keith's nephew, Mike Newsom. He's in the scene with me, and he's the one playing the doctor this time. And I'm like, Mike, pull me off the table and slam me against the wall. And so he takes a cue. He pulls me off the table and swings me around, and I launch myself up against the wall and slam my back against the wall, and then drop to the floor. And Mike's like, what the fuck, dude? He wasn't expecting it at all. I'm like, okay, now pick me up and throw me back across the table. So he did, and he swings me, and I launch myself across, over the table, and land on the floor on the other side, directly in front of the customers that are coming through. Holy shit. I had this one kid, he hurdled the fucking table and ran out of the room. I was like, that was fucking great. We did that all night. And it got to a point where, evening, friends. Hi, Mike. It got to a point where the wall started to shake from where I kept repeatedly hitting myself against it. And then it got knocked off of its bearings and started to collapse. So while we're still in there acting, we had to get our maintenance guy to come in and reset the wall and keep it more stable. So uh, I did not know that was going to happen, that I could break a scene. And I learned real quick that that was a possibility. And the cool thing was the autopsy table that we had was an actual autopsy table. It even had the little uh, hole in it where all the juices and everything would drain underneath it. So it was a legitimate autopsy table. I have no idea how many autopsies were performed on it, but it was like a real antique autopsy table. Just adding authenticity to the scenes, and I love that. So here I am laying on this autopsy table and being slammed up against the wall and thrown across the table. That was like one of the most physical nights of haunting I've ever had, and my God, I loved every second of it. So, and ever since then, I have been a very physical actor and the one willing to take that risk and be the one to slam my head against the wall and and do a lot of the physical stuff that nobody else is really willing to do. uh, Now 52 years old, I still do it. It takes me longer to recuperate, and I have to pace myself more, but I still do it. I'm still a very physical actor, but now I'm much wiser, and I try to be more respectful and not break the scene. And
You have to be
I feel like that was a
respectful to
very
yourself and the
long-winded answer.
scenery.
What's that?
Yes, you have to be respectful to yourself and the scenery.
Right.
Pyle, did you have a question?
No, I'm listening to the whole thing.
Okay. I just didn't know if you had questions before I start on my next one.
No, go ahead. I want to hear the questions that Friday has, because honestly, we all know how she's pretty quiet on this show for the most part.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I will keep asking questions. My next one is, which one of us do you think is the juiciest?
I'm gonna need some
Don't
context
ask.
on that one because I'm not entirely certain what you're asking.
I'm
You
in the
said there
same
was a
boat
hole.
here. What do you mean by
You
juicy?
said there was a hole for all the juices to go down. And my brain just went that way. I'm a morbid person. But anyway, my actual next question is, you said you have a preferred acting style. And I've seen pictures of multiple different characters, and you have guest haunted at different places. What is your preferred way to start acting as a character? And which one is the most fun one you've done?
That is a multi-layered question because it's multiple questions and they need to be answered
I know.
individually. Uh, First off, in insofar as the multiple characters, this goes back to my whole philosophy on haunting, which it's how I started. I wanted to try a little bit of everything to see what I would be good at. Then it sort of grew from there as I wanted to be a well-rounded actor, and I felt the only way that I could be a well-rounded actor was to be a good character actor, so that each character is individual and independent and not the same as any other character. So if I'm going to play a doctor, then that doctor needs to act differently than, say, a clown or a hillbilly or any other character archetype that you can think of, slasher, perhaps serial killer. They might have some traits in common, but they are not the same. So if I approach being a doctor the same way I approach being a clown, what's the difference? How am I stretching my acting chops? It's all the same character, just a different costume. And I see that a lot in a lot of haunts where the person's acting style stays the same regardless of what their costume is. They might wear a different costume, they might even have a different character name, but the bit's still the same. And I don't want to be that guy. I want individual, separate characters. If I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to talk a little bit differently than any of my other characters because I am professional. I am educated. I am here because I'm going to harvest your spleen. And I would not use that voice for my clown character, DH. And DH is kind of a hobo clown, you know, when he gets around, he's a little bit off the cuff and you never know what he's going to do, which is completely different from, hi, it's Nursenia here. Oh, hello, kitties. How are you doing today? Oh, my goodness. It's so lovely to see you. So it's a matter of trying different character voices so that all of your characters are different when you put on a different costume. I'm not going to act them all the same. So that is my philosophy for wanting to be a well-rounded haunt actor, to be able to do any type of character, regardless of what it is. As someone says, Ron, we're putting you in the mortuary scene tonight. We need you to play a funeral director. Yes, I can do that. Come in, ladies and gentlemen. The funeral is about to begin. A little bit deeper, a little bit more gruff, a little bit more somber, you know. So it's a matter of how would I play this character to make it different from any other character I might do. Sometimes it's a one-off. Sometimes it doesn't have any dialogue whatsoever, but I'm going to make guttural noises, or I'm going to growl, or I'm going to bark.
Very Christopher Lee, Mike says.
Very Christopher Lee, that one. Right? One of the original Draculas. That's cool. Thank you. And a lot of it began when they realized that when I had the gift of gab, I was capable of entertaining a crowd for indeterminate periods of time. So I acted as kind of a throttle point within the haunt. If groups were getting too close together, then I could go into my bit, into my spiel, and I could keep them entertained until the group ahead of them got far enough ahead that I could let them go. Or if I get a whole bunch of groups that are getting up on each other, then I can entertain them all at one time and then sparse them out, let them go bit by bit. So that really became what happened with me being in the hillbilly scene at Scaratorium, was I was able to do that. And of course, then we ended up moving to a new location, completely rebuilt the haunt, all new haunt. We had two different haunts, Northland Asylum and Rip's Funhouse. And I went back and forth between the two almost on a nightly basis, either being Nursenia or being an insane patient or being a clown. And back then we had a contest between the insaniacs and the clowniacs to see who could get their customers more, who could rile their customers more. This was a legit competition that we had going per night. And then Kelly at the end of the night would state who he thought had the better guest reactions based on comments that people would give coming out of the haunt. Like, man, the asylum was kicking tonight. People were on point, or maybe we were light on Insaniacs for that night, but we were heavy on the clown side, and the clowns were just all over it. And then the clowns would win that night, And this was a legit competition, and people loved it, man. I mean, it really drove the energy in our haunt doing stuff like that. And then, so in 2013, at the Midwest Haunters Convention, I met Bob and Beth Turner, the owner of the Haunted Hydro up in Fremont. And at that time, Bob was contracted out to work with a company in Australia to run auditions and hire people that could come to Australia and manage a mobile haunt that would go around to state fairs, or I guess province, whatever they call them in Australia. I don't know if they call them states. Kind of like we have state fairs here, and then it travels from state to state, but it's always the same show. So it's just a mobile haunt that goes from like Perth to Sydney to, Wollongong to whatever. It goes all across Australia, and you're there for the entire summer, like 4 months. And you're the man in charge. You're the one that's responsible for being there to set up the haunt, to break down the haunt, pack it up, get it on the road, to hire all of the people that come in to act for that day, teach them how to do the makeup, and put them in costume. That's it. That's your job. And you get paid extremely well to do it. So after my first year of acting, people like, you should try out for the Australia audition. You should try out. So I went up to the Haunted Hydro, July or August of 2013, after Midwest Haunters Convention was over. And I met with Bob and Beth, and they had like 10 other people that were auditioning that weekend for the Australia trip. I met some great people. A lot of them got hired to go, but they were veteran actors. They already knew their stuff, about doing their makeup and costumes and all that. They were up for the task. Me, I had just come off my first season ever haunting. I didn't know jack shit. I literally knew nothing. So Bob had it set up. We were out there the entire weekend, rain or shine. We had to keep going. We had to keep talking, because that's what you would have to do when you're in Australia. You were a carnival barker. Your job was to bring people over, get their tickets so that they could go through the haunt, because that's how they made money. That is a hell of a lot harder than you think. So he had these stations set up, and he'd give us all these challenges that we had to do. And Bob Turner gave me the biggest piece of advice that I have ever received as an actor, which I still hold to this day. It's still my primary basis, my primary philosophy for haunting. It's the core. It is absolutely the core of my acting method. Bob said, "It doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking." It's so simple. It's so simple. It doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking. And he was right. Don't give yourself time to think about what you're going to say next. So my method of acting has evolved. And this is the way I explain it when I do my actor training. When we get new people that come to the haunt, I usually do at least one actor training session per season. That hasn't changed. I've been doing that practically ever since I started, because Kelly saw, the potential, because I had a way of breaking things down. I would make these outlines for what I wanted to talk about, and then I would come up with ideas for exercises for people to practice for their haunting skills. So I've got this whole thing down now, which I use for actor training. But the way I explain it is, have you ever seen the movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone, where he plays a truck driver named Lincoln Hawk, who is a professional arm wrestler, and he's going to this arm wrestling competition because the grand prize is a new truck, and he can start his own trucking company if he can get that truck. So, high stakes and all of that. There's one point in the movie where like the big competition's getting ready to take place, and they're interviewing all of the contestants, what their strategy is for going into the tournament and all of that. And Sylvester Stallone, Lincoln Hawk, his character, he says, for me, it's like this truck, and it's just power. And I know when it's time, I turn my head around, and it's like flipping the switch on the ignition. And that's it. And I went, huh. Because dropping into character or getting ready to haunt is just like that for me. It's not something I have to think about. Because when the lights go off, the soundtrack comes on, you're in your costume, you're in your makeup, it's time to turn on the performer. And it's this mental switch, like a light switch on a wall. You just flip that switch, the performer is turned on. I don't think about it. It just happens. It doesn't matter what you say. Just keep talking. So flip that switch and go. That has become my primary method for acting, and it works.
So I do got a question here, Ron.
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing that you have had come in your way that you have absolutely been able to find a way to overcome as you being a haunter?
One thing, an obstacle that has been in my way that I have found a way to overcome with being a haunter. That is a really good question. And wow, because now when I normally I don't think about these kinds of things, but now that you put me on the spot and I'm thinking about it, there's like so many things that I could respond to this question, and it keeps coming back to my lack of vision, my lack of visual acuity. I am legally blind. I'm extremely nearsighted. I do not have good vision in the dark, which seems completely odd considering that's where we are most of the time as haunters. We're in the dark. I can't see. I don't know. Strobe lights futz with me, But wow, that's weird. I have to pay attention more. I have to, use my other senses, my sense of timing, uh, and just watch, head on a swivel, because I can't really see what's around me or what's coming. Uh, that's just an interesting question because, I do have a hard time navigating when it's complete dark, but I am used to feeling my way, as a visually impaired person. I'm very used to using my hands and tactile nature to feel my way, to feel around, and to me that's second nature. I don't have to think about it. So when I do come across like some place that's too dark and hot for me to navigate, I don't freak out. I don't get scared. I rely on what I've learned as a visually impaired person, and I use my hands to feel around and figure out what's what and go from there. And I have never really had a problem with doing that. Uh, Another one, I guess, would be transportation, because since I don't drive, it does mean that I have to rely on other people in order to get to and from the haunt. And it's amazing that I think I've been as blessed and as lucky as I have to always have that transportation. And I have never once in 13 years missed a night of haunting. I've had perfect attendance for 13 years. Never have I missed a night of haunting.
That is awesome. What has been one of the greatest things you've learned as a guest haunter?
Professionalism. And I can pinpoint, I can put a fine point on this just by what recent, this past Sunday night when we went to Blood Prison. You are a guest actor. They expect that you are going to know what you're doing without needing to train you, to be able to just drop you in a scene and you will go from there. And they don't have to watch over your shoulder, that you're going to respect their haunt, that you're going to respect their customers. Just conduct yourself as a professional, because for them it is a money-making venture. They want to make money and they want good reviews. They want people to have positive experience. So I treat every haunt that I guest act at as if it were my own home haunt, Backwards Oddities or Scaratorium. I would want them to do the same if they were to come guest act at Backwoods as well. And that's always been the case. Most people, professional haunters, I think they hold themselves to that professionality. Nursenia, a little bit of a risque character, as you know. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it, which is kind of the point, and that's what makes her so great. But she doesn't quite fit in a lot of places because they're more extreme, or they're more gore oriented, or they want the scare. And Nursenia is more of a low key type entertainment character, not gory, not scary, just uncomfortable. And I'm very good at that. So I wanted to do Nursenia at Blood Prison. So I went up there. I took the costume with me. I told them I was going to do a nurse character, but they didn't have any idea. Like, okay, whatever, put you in a medical scene. Fine. I got dressed up Nursenia and I walked out. And Vic goes, no, we don't do that here. I was like, nah, I can't let you do that. And I said, I had a feeling that would be the case. And Jen said, what would you like to wear? And I said, don't worry about it. I brought a change of outfit because I had a plan B. That's professionalism. Think ahead. Try one thing, but be prepared to change if one thing doesn't work. That's professionalism. And they were right, I actually think I had more fun doing my plan B, which is just a blue jumpsuit with the sleeves cut off and just my whole face painted up, blood splatter all over me, and I got put in this containment scene, like a what was it called? Solitary confinement, and they have this one scene in Blood Prison. There's like a bunch of turned over cars, and they got like a crashed plane, and they got tanks, and there's people in military suits, and then you got your prisoners that are like running around and stuff, and the sound is just way the hell up there that it's all distorted. It's such an amazing scene. You have to see it to believe it, because I could not describe it enough to do it justice. And then there's one part, this corridor it's covered with an archway, and they've got these concrete barricades on both sides that lead you to this office type area, well, like a secretary type area with a desk in there. And there's only one way you can go. So I'm standing outside of the office area and the concrete barricades. So people have to pass by me in order to go into the office to get to the rest of the haunt. And they had this girl named Cora in the office doing like secretary. My goosebumps. Well, I think I'm getting ready for bed. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining, Mike. And we basically pinballed these people back and forth between us. And like they would run from me directly into her. And then she would get them as soon as they came into the office. Oh my God. And it was, for me, it was like 3 hours of intense cardio nonstop, and just jumping up and down and barking and growling at people. Like I almost lost my voice. My legs were shot. I felt like I just had leg day at the gym for the entire week, and just, it was intense cardio. I was exhausted by the end of it, and I'm like laying on the floor just like laughing my ass out, like that was so fun, I'm like a little bit giddy. So it's just professionalism. Treat yourself as a professional haunter, and they will give you the respect that you deserve as a haunter.
And that is awesome. How about we do ad breaks? And
Say again, Pyle.
are you
Mike.
okay with that, Pyle?
Whatever you were going to say, go ahead and say it.
I was going to suggest we do ad break and then come back with the rest of the questions.
Okay.
That sounds perfectly fine to me.
Alrighty, we'll be right back.
Yay.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Red Octopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Red Octopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
And we're back.
And front. And
You
both
had a
sides.
question, Pyle?
He didn't have a question.
That's something. Okay. Either way. My next question was, as a haunter, what has been the most surprising moment with a customer that had that basically stopped you in the tracks and that made you have to think quickly to figure out how to act next?
Believe it or not, that happens more often than you think, because customers love to get one over on you. So they will try to say something that will either make you break character, or, that you can't respond to fast enough. And they're like, gotcha. It happens more often than you think. And sometimes, the customers come in, they're like, oh, well, you're not scary. Yeah, then why are you here? It's like, but you can't really say that to them. I don't want to be like an actual dick. If I'm going to be a dick, I'm going to do it in character, and that's all in fun. Usually when people say you're not scary, it's because they are scared and they're trying to put on a brave face, and they think that that's the way that they're going to do it. So sometimes people will say something like a one-liner, or they'll say something completely unexpected, and like I have no response to it. I have no retort to it. And then I'll just look at them and say, I don't have a response for that. Like, I don't know what to say to that. That's some fucked up shit. So you can still tell the truth and still be funny about it. And that still works because you're still doing it in character. You're like, I thought I was fucked up, and now you're telling me this shit. Let's re-examine which one of us is actually fucked up, So it's just a matter of, you're never really without something to say. And it's okay to be speechless. It really is. It's okay to not know what to say next, because then you can tell them, I don't have a response for that. And that will usually kickstart your brain into actually saying something. Like I said, doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking.
So, you have talked about the Scaratorium,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to tell you, there is a couple pieces from the Scaratorium that is actually at our haunt that we just acquired. And in fact, I did not know anything was from the Scaratorium until we removed the electrical tape or duct tape from the one sign.
Okay,
We actually have the rules from the Scaratorium.
I vaguely recall those. I think we had them posted outside of our asylum.
So, my next question for you is, Backwoods Oddity. What has been absolutely one of your best memories, best acts? What is one of your best moments at the Backwoods since you've been there?
Oh, wow. That's like asking which one of your kids is your favorite. Like, how do you rank
The
that?
one that didn't upset me today.
Yeah, right. How do you rank that? Okay, first off, this is my 5th year acting at Backwoods Oddities. And in that time, I have done a variety of things that I had never gotten to do before at another haunt. For example, I had one season where I was a clown in our fun house, and at that time it was called Jack's house. I got to roller skate. I got to be a clown on roller skates in Jack's house. And then I think the following year, well, actually, it was the previous year before I did the roller skates, I got to try jumping stilts for the first time in my life. I've never been on stilts ever. But I thought, that looks like fun. I want to try it. And Alan, who was the haunt owner at the time before he turned it over to his daughter, he's like, yeah, just come down. We'll put you on the stilts. You can practice on them. Take as much time as you need, to work on it and get good and all of that. Well, like I said before, I don't drive. So it made it really hard to get down the backwoods so I could put in time practicing on these stilts. Opening night of the season. And I said, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And they buckled me into the stilts 20 minutes before we opened. Never been on stilts before. And then I was on stilts for the next 5 hours. And I did that every night for the rest of the season. No practice, nothing. Just put them on and go. Hope for the best. And it worked. It was great. It was a do or die situation, and I wasn't about to die. But then I realized that, hey, I'm old, and this hurts. We ended up, we got another kid. Next season, this kid named Caleb, and he took over being on the stilts, and I trained him how to use the stilts. And that's when I started doing the roller skates. So I'd never gotten the chance to do roller skates in a haunt before. Never gotten the chance to do jumping stilts. Those were 2 new things for me, and it was absolutely incredible. So they've got a few scenes that, Backwoods is kind of a different haunt. It's a little unique in the way that it's set up and some of the scenes that they got. So it's like it gives me an opportunity to try different characters and stretch my abilities as a character actor, because that's what I love. That's what I want to do. Be able to play any character anywhere, anytime. and Backwoods has given me an opportunity to do that. So I've worked queue line, I've worked inside the haunt, I've worked on the trail, I've worked in the fun house. I've had the opportunity to do a little bit of everything there, and it's still a lot of fun. I never know one season to the next what I'm going to be doing. So it's always a surprise, to see what's going to happen next.
What is your favorite scene at the Backwoods Haunt?
I would say the funhouse was absolutely my favorite scene. And it's the one where I had the most fun because I did get to do the jumping stilts and I did get to do the roller skates. Now, this particular season, I'm in another scene. I was in another scene called Painland. And Painland is like a really old school scene because there's not much in there. And keep in mind, this is a trail haunt. So this is all outdoors. Where you're in the mulch and pallets and everything and all that. And it's outside and it's cold, wind, rain, whatever. And there's not much in Painland other than an inversion table with a corpsed out gelatin body strapped to it. So last season we had a person dressed as Art the Clown working in Painland and, desecrating that corpse. And that was fine, but of course we can't use copyrighted characters, so we kind of had to do away with Art the Clown. So they put me in there, and I had no idea what to do in that particular scene. So I reverted back to my hillbilly character, and I have a pickaxe. And, I wasn't really playing to the scene so much as I was being entertaining to the people and being, creepy and intimidating and all those fun things, where I'm using my pickaxe. And this still boggles my mind. I have a pickaxe. It's a 15-pound pickaxe that I bought from Lowe's. An actual pickaxe, a real, well, I guess Alan would call it a mattock. It's actually a mattock. It's not a pickaxe, but they're very similar. So I have this mattock, and I put duct tape over the ends of the mattock, over the Sharpie parts, so nobody gets hurt. But it's steel. It's heavy. You hit somebody with it, it's gonna hurt. So I have to be very careful how I swing it around. It's not gonna cut anybody, but it can still do some damage, like break a nose or, break a rib if I hit them with it and whatnot. So I've had to be very careful about how I swing it around. So I got this bit where, I'm in between scenes. I'm swinging this axe around. I'm like slamming it in dirt and all of that stuff, just having a good old time. And then people come into the scene and I'm using the mattock. I'm like, I'm going to dig out earwax. And I stick the pointy end in people's ears. Like I'm going to dig out the earwax, and then I hold it up and say, "Here, taste that. Tastes like earwax to you." Just stupid shit like that. It's humorous, it's entertaining, and people are grossed out by it. Or I say, "Oh, I pushed it in a little too far. I think I got some brain matter on it," and then I'll lick it and say, "Oh, that's spicy. What have you been thinking?" And people get a laugh out of that. But what shocks me is, as much as I'm throwing this thing around, dropping it in the dirt, sticking it in people's ears, and then telling them to lick it, people lick it. Like, you dirty bastards. Like, you know how many ears this thing has been in tonight? And, the fact that I'm dropping it in the dirt and you're licking it. And all the people that lick it, like, you know how many people have licked this thing before you? Like, it can't possibly be sanitary, but they still do it. They're not thinking about it. It's like, I started thinking about that. I'm like, ugh. And then I stopped licking it. I would mime, or mimic that I'm licking it, but I stopped licking it after I realized that. Like, that's kind of nasty. I'm like, I'm just inflicting pain upon myself. I guess that's why it's called Painland. I don't know. But the guy I ride to the haunt with, my haunt brother from another mother, Matt, he was having car trouble 2 weekends ago, or not not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I think. And he was going to be late and picking me up, and I thought, well, I know how these things go. If he can't get the car fixed, we're going to miss haunting. You know, I haven't missed a night of haunting in 13 years. He's like, well, I'm more concerned about my car. I'm like, yeah, I get that. You know, I need the ride too. So I ended up getting a ride to the haunt with somebody else, and Matt said he was going to be late, but he would eventually be there. So Alan decides to move me over to Matt's scene, which is called Snake Oil. It's old-timey mercantile, where, you know, you're a carnival barker or a snake oil salesman, kind of slick talker, you know, all that. Just, you know, trying to con people out of their money. And that's right up my alley, you know, from doing the whole Australia audition. Doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking. That's essentially what a carny does. You know, what a snake oil salesman does. Doesn't give you an opportunity to speak. You know, they're trying to persuade you into buying the snake oil and all of that. And I'm good at that. So I took over Matt's scene. Oh man, I had a blast that night because we had this coffin. We have this coffin in the scene. It's a big silver metal coffin. And I'm trying to sell people this coffin. Like, look at this coffin. Such luxury, such style, such design. Don't you want to know what your afterlife is going to be like? If you're going to go, you might as well go in style. Go ahead and take this ride and see how comfortable it is. You know, that kind of thing, like you're a used car salesman or something. And I would open up the coffin, and it's nothing in there. It's a piece of cardboard, and it's linen on the sides. And I would get people to lay in the coffin, and then I would slam the lid down on them and sit on top of it so they couldn't get out. I must have had maybe 8 people get in that coffin that night. Right? Others were like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I actually had a couple, a man and a woman, get inside the coffin, and she was laying on top of him. I was like, no hanky panky in there. You know, I'm like banging on the lid, no hanky panky in there. So Alan found out I was doing this, putting people inside the coffin, and he goes, don't do that. I was like, that's like half of my bit right there. Like, what else am I going to do? He goes, if I had known you were doing that, I had told you not to do it before, but that coffin covers our sump pump. I went, oh. I was like, yeah, that could be bad. Like, you get enough weight in there, and the bottom of that coffin drops out, and that sump pump gets, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, shit water everywhere. I thought, okay, so maybe it's not such a good idea to put people in this coffin. I'm gonna have to find a plan B now. After I had like 8 people in this coffin, nobody told me this. He goes, well, nobody's ever thought of doing that before. I was like, well, can we get another coffin in the scene that I can put people in? So I've been having fun in that scene, but now I'm having to rethink my bit because I can't put people in the coffin anymore. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Just keep talking. Doesn't matter what you say. Just keep talking.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah. So now that I can't put people in the coffin, I keep having people ask me, can I get in it? I'm like, I would love to put you in that coffin. I can't. We just had a body explode, and there's blood and guts and everything all over in there. It's a bad sight. You don't want to see it. Just talking some shit. Keep people from getting in the coffin. I don't know. But that's absolutely, it's been a great scene. I've been loving doing that. Snake Oil, because again, it's a different type of character. It's different from what I was doing in Painland with being hillbilly, because now, you know, it's more of a, you know, slow talker. It's like, well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Carnival Emporium. I hope you enjoyed your drink there over at the Speakeasy. But now it's time to make a deal for your soul. Yes, there's only one kind of currency that we take here, and that's your soul. So please feel free to look around, check out my wares. If you see anything that strikes your fancy, you let me know, and I'm willing to make a deal. So I'm doing shit like that. It doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking.
It's improvise. Most of the things that we do in a haunted industry is absolutely improvising. Well, I will let you guys know that I have been driving constantly with very little brakes since 6 o'clock this morning.
So your brakes aren't working and you're still driving because you can't stop the truck.
Well,
you said very little brakes. But your foot's too big for the brake pedal, or what? I mean, they're very little. Like, how are you hitting them?
I have been all over the state of Ohio today, and I'm very, very thankful that I can do this. But I need to check out just because I need to wake up tomorrow morning early and go down to Cincinnati, Ohio, then to the other side of Columbus, then shoot this way. But tomorrow I will not be shooting back down to Cincinnati. The only reason I did that a second time today was because I went to Spookery's Industry Night, which was wonderful. And we've had Spookery on the show before. So it was really awesome to see all the stuff actually in person. So I'm going to check out for tonight. I know that Jenny, I'm leaving everything in your capable hands because honestly, you're perfect. You're wonderful.
She's doing a great job.
Oh, I agree.
Thank
Absolutely. You. I agree 100%. And she's got a lot more questions just because she's not a haunter. She doesn't work at a haunt house. So she is one of the key people here that gets to ask these questions because she doesn't know what we know. Because
all right, Paul, you're fired. Jenny's taking over your show.
Oh, okay. Well,
just for tonight.
It's been a great run, and man, I almost made it a year.
We'll rehire you for the next one. How about that?
That is great, and I would even have to check who it is right off the bat. But I did get attacked to some people from this haunt over in Richmond, Indiana. Something Forest, man.
Hannah's you need a nap. Go take a nap.
Yeah, I need to go to bed. So hopefully everybody. Hey, real quick before I get off of here, our haunt last weekend is coming up this weekend. So hopefully the haunt season is going to be winding down here pretty soon. So just think about which haunt you guys are going to go visit this wonderful weekend because they're going to start shutting their doors, and I know that a lot are open one more weekend in November, September. Holy crap, I'm going backwards, man. Okay, I'm going to bed because I'm going backwards in time.
Good night. We love you. Sweet dreams.
Good night, Pyle.
Good night. Hopefully I have a nightmare.
The haunt bugs bite. I mean, unless you really want them to, because they're kind of kinky that way.
Oh, jeez, criminy. I'm not ready for that. All right.
Don't let Trevor bite.
Yeah, that's right, Trevor. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. Now we can really get down to business.
Dude, we have explored. I've learned more about you than I expected. And this is two interviews, two different ways, two different aspects of your life.
Because you interviewed me for Unprinted Pages as the writer aspect, and now you're interviewing me for the haunter aspect. Completely different stories.
We're not even hitting. Oh yeah, and they're all amazing. I'm loving both, and you can see the way you build characters and how you have turned that into how you haunt. And then and how you think about these characters, you can see in both aspects how you
Mhm.
do it, and it's beautiful. And what has been the one scare that you've done that has been like the most fun, or the one that has been the least expected?
I think the one that was least expected is the most recent turn of events at Backwoods for doing Hell Night, when Alan dared me to wear the green slingshot thong like Borat wore in the movie. Ori,
Mhm.
you are spoiled. Here I am trying to
Yes.
be professional and give a good interview, and all I keep hearing in the background is like she wants all this attention. I'm like, hey, this is my time, not yours, okay? All
Why do
right.
you think I'm in a closet? Lunar and Dante, man. Those are the reasons why I'm in the closet.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so the slingshot was the most unexpected thing, I think, because we have our Hell Night, and on Hell Night, anything goes. It's 18 plus, or you have to be there with a guardian. You have to sign a waiver, and basically signing the waiver is like you're signing your life away. We can pretty much do whatever we want at that point, and you waive all liability essentially. Uh, and we sort of took that ball and ran with it. It's incredibly adult themed. So Alan dared me to wear the green slingshot thong like Sasha Baron Cohen wore in Borat. I'm sure you can probably pull up pictures and see exactly what I'm talking about from Borat if you are so inclined. Then it'll give you an idea. But imagine me wearing that, you know,
I'm
and
not putting the picture up for you guys.
no, I don't think we need to do that. So imagine me wearing that, and I'm in the fun house, and I got people coming through and like, oh Lord, because it's not something that you see in a haunt on a regular basis. You just don't see that kind of thing, because a lot of haunts they shy away from adult themed stuff because they got kids coming through and all of that. But it's 18 plus. You signed a waiver, so that sort of started it, and then it went the next season. I'm like, okay, more or less, how can I one up this? And Alan says, I have something for you. And he disappears into our wardrobe barn. And then he comes back because his girlfriend, Mary, our wardrobe mistress, she works at a Lion's Den, which is an adult shop for adult toys and outfits. He brings back these two strap uh, like strippers wear.
Mhm.
I don't even know how to describe them or what they're called. Just a strap top and bottoms, I guess. It's nothing but straps, like these leather straps, and they glow in the dark. He brings these back. He brings these out to me. He's like, put these on. So I did, and it was like, wear that for Hell Night. I'm like, mm, I had seriously had to consider this. I had to think about it. I'm like, nobody's telling me not to.
True.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. So I went to Amazon and I bought a bunch of thongs, like G-string thongs, like really skimpy thongs.
Yeah.
And I bought some that were mesh because, I didn't know that these things weren't just like standard, breathable mask type mesh. These were like fishing net mesh. They are incredibly see-through. I'm looking at these things. What's that?
You got more than you bargained for, didn't you?
Yeah, and so did the people at the haunt. So I'm looking at these things like, I can't wear that. Like, okay, I'll wear the strap outfit, but I'm like, I don't know about these thongs. Like, they're mesh, and they don't hide anything. Now, I mean, I know there's laws in Ohio that basically is as long as your nipples are covered and your Ghibli bits are covered and any orifices are covered, you're not technically nude. And you can go out in public like that because you're not technically nude. And we have what is it? I want to say Pride Parade, something like that. I can't even. I don't remember what it's called. But there are people that will actually do this. They will go out essentially naked, but they will have the pertinent parts covered, and the cops can't do anything because one, it's an event where it's allowed, and two, they're not completely nude, and that's a law. So, and we are on private property. We're outside of city limits, so people signed a waiver. I'm basically covered, even if they are see-through, I'm still, everything's covered, so not technically nude, but nothing's really hidden either. And people are like, oh Lord, like
that was not the show they were expecting.
That was not the show they were expecting, but the thing is, nobody has the guts, or nobody's brave enough to put themselves out there like that. How many people would actually do it if you asked them? Now, people can, say, I would do it, I would step up and do it, but would they really? Would they really do it? I'm the one stupid motherfucker that will put himself out there because, it's acting, playing a character, you're stretching your acting abilities. And why the hell do I work out, if I'm not going to be proud of my body? So it has sort of come to that now where I think if I were to stop doing it, people would probably wonder why. Some people would be happy if I did stop doing it, like, okay, fine. But then now I think it's something, and I could be wrong about this. It could be something where people have started to expect it of me. I could be wrong, but I've done it. I think it's the kind of thing that people would expect me to do. So if I stop doing it, they'd be like, well, why'd you stop? Well, I thought people didn't like it. Obviously it makes people uncomfortable, but that's the point. Goal accomplished. But I don't mind it. It's fun because it's shock value. And can you even call yourself a haunter if you're not willing to go for some shock value? That's what we're here for, is to get a rise out of the customers, to give them a memorable experience, but do it in a safe manner. So, I've got rules that I hold to when I dress in that outfit. One, I don't touch anybody because I don't want them touching me. That's just good business.
Understandable.
Yeah. I don't want anything to be misconstrued just because of the way I'm dressed, or lack thereof. So yeah, I don't touch people. But, if they ask, then sure, that's fine. Because at least they're asking, they're being polite about it. But, can I take a picture with you? No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot take a picture with me when I'm dressed like that. You can touch me. You cannot take a picture with me. And that's the hard part too, because you never know who's going to have their phone out and they're going to be recording.
Yeah.
And I went through this this mental just war with myself about, okay, you have a book out now. You're trying to cultivate a public profile of yourself as a professional author. Is this the kind of image you want to portray? If you do it, you always run the risk of images like these getting out there. Is that what you want? Now, I have a professional job. I have a full-time career. And if pictures of me surface dressed in that outfit for Haunt, it probably would not be very good for me. And I understand that. So I go through this mental battle with myself like, is it really worth it? I do it for the entertainment value. Do it for the shock value. I do it because it's fun. But I run that risk every single time I do it. And I recognize that fact. So far, I've been lucky. And nothing has come of it. And I'm just hoping that that's the case. I'm putting it out there. This is a public forum. That's what I do. I don't have to, but it's still fun. And Hell Night is a different beast. We want to make it a different beast. We want to go above and beyond. We want it to be extreme. We want it to be something you've never seen before in Haunt. And that's me playing a small part of making that happen, So I'm balancing this public profile, as a writer and my professional job with taking a risk and hoping that nothing happens. So I don't know how we got on that topic. What was the question?
The original question was, what was the most surprising?
That's how we got on that topic, because that was the most surprising. Yeah.
What was the most fun night scare that you had?
Yeah, that it because it's so completely different than anything I've ever done before. And it turns out that I enjoy it, plain and simple. It's fun for me. Because I'm the only person that doesn't have a problem with it.
And that is one of the things that makes you you. You find new ways to come outside the box or set the box on fire and let it smolder and never look at it again. I think the box is completely gone.
With the cat in it, if she doesn't be quiet. Gosh.
Or like you were supposed to love on me, period.
Yep.
Okay. Do you ever make your own scenes?
Yes and no. Back when I was with the Scaratorium, I was Kelly's right-hand man because I had a lot of time once I got off work, and I could go over to the haunt, and we would work for several hours to build and move things around and do anything that needed to be done to get the haunt ready. I spent practically all of my waking hours outside of work at the haunt, building, getting stuff done. And that was my life back then at the Scaratorium. And I absolutely loved it. I kind of miss those days. Now, Backwoods is an hour south of Columbus. And since I don't drive, I can't go down and help out with build days as much as I would like. And it's an outdoor haunt, so the build would be a little bit different since it's mostly pallet based, moving pallets around, building walls out of pallets and stuff like that. So back at the Scaratorium, I did have a little bit more say in scene design. Kelly would have some ideas on what he would do, and then, he was very open to our ideas for stuff that we wanted to do, and then he would say, "Okay, try it. Go ahead." And then it would be up to us to implement it. And if it worked, great. If it didn't work, figure out why it didn't work, change it out, and make it work. Scaratorium was great for that. It was very much a learning haunt for everybody that worked there to learn something new, learn about building a haunt, learn about running a haunt, learn about the administrative side of it, learn how to do makeup, learn how to be an actor trainer. If you got an idea for a scene that you think will work, try it. You can decorate it however you want. All the stuff is back there in the storage room. Pick it out, put your scene together yourself. And that's what we did, Kelly had ideas. We all had ideas. We'd implement the ideas. And that was one of the great things about Scaratorium is it was our haunt. It wasn't just, one person's haunt. Kelly might have been the owner, but we had so much say in that haunt and designing the scenes and the characters that we created or the makeup that we wanted. Just try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, see what works and what doesn't. He gave us that freedom to be ourselves and experiment and to learn as we go. And my God, I think that, that's one of the things that made Scaratorium like one of the best haunts in Ohio. And I don't think anybody would even argue that point, that Scaratorium was one of the best haunts in Ohio at that time. Because that was truly one big haunt family. Those days are long gone now. Kelly's retired. The Scaratorium closed down in 2017. So I moved on to other haunts since then, but I took all of that experience and that education with me to every other haunt that I've been since then. When we did the Miller Building, we had the opportunity, the same kind of opportunity. We had freedom to design our own scenes and try different things, but that was a themed haunt. There was a backstory to that haunt. And so what we did had to fall within that backstory, characters that you might have in that particular backstory. But that was a great haunt too. And it only lasted 1 year. There's a whole story behind that too, which I don't want to get into. It only lasted 1 season, which is so sad because we put so much work into that haunt and it had such great potential to have become one of Ohio's greatest haunts. And unfortunately, that will never be realized because we only got to do it for one season. But I mean, we had the same kind of freedom there and learning experience. So yeah, Scaratorium and Miller Building. I've usually been given creative license to do whatever kind of character I want. The scene might already be there, but I can do whatever kind of character. I can do the character, play the character however I want. So just like with moving, from Painland, where I had to come up with something on the fly there, and then moving into Snake Oil and coming up with character on the spot, like literally on the spot, not even knowing what I was going to do until I hit that scene. The whole character just sort of panned itself out in my head. I came up with character name. Ulysses Needham is the snake oil salesman. My friends call me Yule. That's right, Yule Needham. Because he's a snake oil salesman trying to sell you stuff you don't need. But you'll need him. He's there for you.
Raz has let his character tell him his story. Have you ever actually wrote out any of the stories of your characters with a backstory?
Yes. Funny you should mention that. My very first character that I played at the Scaratorium, the hillbilly that I mentioned earlier, has a whole backstory. The character's name is Buford Cletus. Buford has a whole backstory, which in my mind plays out like a trauma movie. If you're familiar with Traumaville,
yes.
Like Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, a couple others I can't even name. I can't even remember. But they have like tons of just cheesy, low budget B movies with terrible special effects that are just so campy. They're so fun. I love trauma movies. So Buford has this whole backstory, and I did actually write out a synopsis of it where Buford is a former rodeo clown or an occasional rodeo clown, works at the rodeo as a clown, out running the bulls and all that kind of stuff. But when he's not performing in as a rodeo clown, he runs a pig farm, and he will slaughter the pigs and then turn them into pork products, which he will sell at markets, like farmers markets, organic markets, and like state fairs and carnivals and things like that. Pork sausages and barbecue and all that kind of thing. So, porcine pork products. So down the road from Buford's pig farm was a chemical plant, a research facility called Lincon. And Lincon is named because it was one of the scenes in our funhouse at Scaratorium. Lincon was a research lab that had a chemical spill, and it mutated all of the scientists that worked there. So I used that in Buford's backstory, where Lincon was dumping toxic chemicals into the water supply that fed into the pig farm that the pigs would drink out of. And the pigs drank this toxic water, and they started mutating into these like giant muscular pigs. And then when Buford would slaughter the pigs and turn them into the pork products that he would sell to people at the carnivals and state fairs and all of that, they tasted so good that it drove people into a frenzy because of the tainted meat. And they just kept wanting more, wanting more, wanting more. And then when the pork products started to run out, they started turning on each other and trying to eat each other. And they basically became these, mindless zombies. Although, they weren't undead, they were just regular people, but they're so blissed out on this toxic pig meat that they can't think straight, and it turned them into cannibals. And they start, attacking each other and trying to eat each other and all that. And Buford is unaffected by the pig meat. It's toxic, but for some reason, he's immune to it because he's already not right in the head. Buford has a brother named Enos Cletus, who is, I hate to say it because it's not a PC word, for lack of a better word, he's retarded. Or I guess they would say on the spectrum now.
Yeah.
So Enos is on the spectrum. He's retarded, not trying to offend anyone, but that's really the best way to put it. Enos is not incredibly intelligent, but Buford talks to Enos, because he's his brother. The problem is that Enos does not actually exist. It's a figment of Buford's imagination that he has this imaginary brother that he thinks actually exists, but he really doesn't. So he's already not right in the head, and this is probably why he's immune to the effects of the toxic chemicals in the pork. Everybody else is going crazy, and then Buford has to take it upon himself because he's the only sane one left in this town full of raving cannibals, that he's the one that has to go around and deal with the problem. So this the whole backstory, and I really wish this could be a trauma movie because it would be fucking great. I think it would make a great trauma movie. I really do.
Yes, it would.
So that's one of the characters I've created a backstory for. And then when we did the Miller Building, I had a character there. His name was Horatio Ashburn. Was it Horatio or Horace? It's one or the other. Horace or Horatio. And Horatio, or maybe that was his father was Grundy Ashburn. Okay, yeah, the father was Grundy, and then there were two brothers, Horatio and Horace. And Horace was the character. Now it's coming back to my head, and had to think about this in forever. So, Horace was the character, and they had a family-run crematorium that would dispose of all of the bodies from the funeral home. And then people, when they asked for their loved ones to be cremated, they would go to Grundy's crematorium, and then Horace and Horatio and Grundy would burn the bodies and all of that. So Horace's job was to scrape out all of the cremains after the body was burnt, and then pick out all of the particles that did not burn. Like if there were rings or fake teeth or, stuff that had been in the pockets that didn't burn, like, maybe jewelry or a watch or coins or whatever. Horace's job was to scrape out all of the cremains from the oven and to pick through the cremains and pull out all the stuff that didn't burn. That was his job. But Grundy was an abusive father, and if Horace would mess up, then the father would slam Horace's face into the side of the oven, and it burnt him and left him with scars. And Horace started going crazy from all the abuse that he was taking from his father. And it is hypothesized or very likely theorized that Horace threw his father into the oven and burnt him. But Horace thinks his father has abandoned him and that he's gone and that someday he's going to come back. So Horace got put into the asylum at the Miller building because that was the theme of our haunt. And most of the time, he's docile. He's a good worker. He'll go around and he'll sweep and he'll rake the leaves and he'll be helpful to people and, help you carry things and move stuff. And he would clean the gravestones and, all of the, tidying up and all of that because he's a docile character. But then somebody would say something or mention fire or have a display of abuse, and Horace would be triggered by that word or that action, and he would start to go crazy and start hurting people, thinking, because his father would abuse him. So Horace, that's another backstory that I came up with for him as well, which I also think would make a good short story or something. You maybe make it into something for an anthology, something like that. So I have put a lot of time into creating backstories for some of my characters, but a lot of times the characters are just one-offs and they don't really require a backstory because you're not really going to do anything with them. They're just there to pull on if you need them. But when it's a themed haunt or if you have to, then you've got a character with a backstory that you can pull on. And I like the creative aspect of it, especially as a writer.
I do too.
It helps me come up with ideas for characters to write into stories. Who knows?
I love that.
I keep telling myself one of these days I'm actually going to write a book with the whole Buford's backstory and actually flesh it out and make it into a full-fledged story. I haven't done it yet, but maybe someday.
I'm here for it. Okay. Since we are nearing the end, there has to be 2 definite more questions.
Okay.
One of them, if you gave advice to any new haunters or old haunters, just good advice that you think would be great to give, what would the advice be?
I've already given it several times throughout the show.
I mean, other than that. 'Cause there might be something that you've thought of that would help physically keep them going. There might be something that might help them start their idea other than just keep talking, like start the idea that helps click the idea of, well, I need to make a character for this area.
Yeah, I know what
How
you're
do
saying.
I get started thinking?
I have broken down actor training and like this. There are 3 key components to haunt acting: your voice, your movement, and your character. These are not mutually inclusive because you can start with any one of them and develop the others. So if you have a character voice you want to do, start with that and then ask yourself, what kind of character do I see using this type of voice? And once you have the character for that voice, then you can ask yourself, how does this character move? And you have to think about it, because if character is a person or extension of yourself, then you have to, where are they from? Do they have an accent? Do they have a lisp? If they have a lisp, why do they have a lisp? How would this character dress based on the region that they come from or based on their profession? What is it that they do? Nersenya, she's a registered proctologist. So how was she dressed? Well, she got the long black gloves because we're going to give a rectal exam, obviously. You're going to cover your hands. So you have to think about all of these things. Maybe you don't have a voice, you don't have a character, but you have a specific way that you can move that's unique to you and nobody else has it. Excuse me. So you've got that movement. What kind of character would utilize that movement? Now that you have the character, how will that character talk? And again, you ask yourself the same questions. Where's it from? What does this character do? What is their job? And you can flesh it out that way. So the three key components, when you break it down that way, your voice, your movement, and your character. Start with one, work on the others. So you can do a character development sheet and write down all the things about your character that you want just based on those three things. Once you have that basis, then you can work on the costume or what your character is going to wear, maybe what you want the makeup to look like, and so on. Then once you have that, then it's a matter of thinking about, okay, what can I say? And that's largely going to depend on what kind of scene you're in, the character is in at the haunt. And you start thinking about what you're going to say, some lines that you can use for dialogue, so on. And that's where it comes back to, it doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking. So legit, that is really, kind of actor training in a nutshell. And then you can come up with exercises to help people to develop that. There's a lot of improv exercises that you can do, or like word association that you can do for developing your character and so on. So that's essentially how I approach actor training, is by working those three key components to help people start developing characters. And I always tell them, try it for at least one night, because it's a different beast once the lights are out, soundtrack comes on, you're in the costume, you're in the makeup. You will know by the end of that night whether or not this is something you're going to be able to do. And I almost guarantee you, I will see you tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, they come back. They're like, oh my God, that was amazing. That was such an adrenaline rush. Wow, that was so fun. I'm like, yep. That's why we do it. That's why we keep doing it. And that's it. You'll know by the end of the first night whether or not it's something that you can do. So that's what I try to tell new actors. It doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking. By the end of the night, you'll know if haunting is for you. And that's pretty much it.
That is awesome. I bet you know what the second question is. Where do you want people to find you?
At the haunt? At the haunt. Well, that was easy. Okay.
I did put the link in the show notes, people.
Oh, for Backwoods Oddities?
Yeah.
BWOhaunt.com for Backwoods Oddities. And
all your other links.
Yeah. We also have a Facebook page for Backwoods Oddities Haunt as well. So this Friday and Saturday, I will be at Backwoods. You can come find me there. Sunday night, I will be at Hell's Dungeon in Dayton. That's Raz's haunt. So I'll be acting there at Hell's Dungeon. You can find me there if you want. I will probably be in Snake Oil again for Backwoods, and I will most likely be in Nursing again at Hell's Dungeon. So you can find me either one of those places. As far as finding my socials, the author page, you can find me Ronald W Gillespie Jr. author. If you're interested in my book, buy my book right here called Inside My Nightmares. Available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all kinds of good places. You can also find me on TikTok. I am a martial artist by trade. I try to make martial arts content for TikTok. You can find me at Wolf Dojo. That's WULFDOJO. If martial arts is your thing, you can also find me there. Otherwise, you can always just talk to Friday and she'll get you in touch with me if you absolutely positively can't reach me any other way, which I don't know why you wouldn't be able to. I'm on Facebook all the freaking time. And
Yeah,
you know,
if
I'm
I
also
can
here
answer
on
your
Outlet.
question, I'll him.
And you can also find me here on Outlight for Tomb of the Terrible on Monday nights and Padded Cells on Sundays. Anything else? Have I told all of my stories, or is there much more to tell? I have to think about this. What haven't I told?
There's
always
dude,
more.
We barely cracked the surface.
I know.
We've just barely got an ice cube out of this iceberg. We've
Well,
got
what do you
like
want to
this
know?
much
What
Oh.
is the one burning question, the one thing you want to know that nobody would ever think to ask? What is that question?
one burning question. Let's see. That is because I'd been trying to think about that. My
I know. It's hard, isn't it?
burning question is, well, I don't know if it's the most burning question. It's which haunt character that you have would you walk into the class reunion as?
Oh, wow.
I don't know if anybody's asked that one.
No, I mean, that's an off the cuff question, and I hadn't even thought of that. Honestly, I would probably have to go with Nurse Enya. I have a love-hate relationship with Nurse Enya. For the reason that when I first started doing it, and she was an incredibly successful character, where it became problematic for me because people wanted me to do the character all the time, even when I wasn't in costume or in makeup. That's not to say that I can't drop into her when I want to, because I can. I can drop into character at any time without costume and makeup. But that's where it becomes problematic, because if you do it when you're not in costume and makeup, people start to think maybe that's how you are, and I'm not. I am not like Nurse Enya. I am an incredibly straight, heterosexual male. I'm very masculine. I don't know if you noticed that about me. And Nurse Enya is the exact polar opposite of that. But I also think that that's why it makes her so easy to do. And the extension of me that I would never normally show. Because if I did, people would start to get the wrong idea about me. That's not who I am. It's just a character that I play. I started to dislike Nurse Enya because people couldn't tell where Nursing stopped and Ron started. They started liking the character more than they liked me. That kind of hurts a little bit, you know. Uh, I'm glad people like the character, but when you are expecting Narsinia all the time and you don't care about me as a person, that's a problem. So I stopped doing Narsinia for a long time strictly for that reason. You know, I didn't want to cause problems or to give people the wrong idea about me, you know. But it's still a popular character, and I've stepped away from it long enough now, and I think that people understand, and I can kind of play my own gatekeeper, really, on when I bring Narsinia out. So it's a little bit easier to do it now because I think now people understand that it's more of a character, and it's still successful every time I do it, but they see the way I act as Ron, and they understand I'm not Narsinia. You know, it is just a character I'm portraying, and nobody expects me to be like that, even when I'm out of costume.
No.
And that's the way that it should be. So I've created a little bit of distance with it, and it's fine now. I still enjoy doing it, but the reason why I would choose Narsinia to go to the class reunion. Now, keep in mind, I'm 52 years old, and everybody I went to high school with, as my age, we've been out of high school now for 30 years. We graduated in 1990, so what, 34 years, something like that. Almost 35. This is a side of Narsinia is a side of me that they've never seen before, but it is the peak, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's the greatest example of how I have grown as a performer and an entertainer. If I were to show up to the class reunion dressed as Narsinia and act that way, that would be the ultimate shock value. Like, oh my God, Ron, is that you? Yes, it is I. And they've never seen me like that before. Like, I've changed as a person. The kind of thing that I would never do in high school because I was too shy to put myself out there. I was not a performer. I was not an entertainer. This is what I can do because I'm far more mature, far more confident in my abilities, far more confident as a person. I'm very confident in my sexuality as a male, that to do Narsinia doesn't bother me. And that's what people would never see. Those people would have never seen me. They're like, wow. I think that would be the ultimate shock value.
Oh yeah. That's also two thoughts. Well, technically three, but two of them match together. That's why when you ask, should I show up as Narsinia? I'm like, how about you choose the character that would be most fun? Because you're versatile. And the other one is in reference to your TikTok. The questions that popped up were, I can do that. I can have a pink gi. he will teach me how to do these things so I can start learning were the recent questions that are asked from the kids. It's one of those, you can inspire. You can make people know that they don't have to have the limits that they thought they had.
Absolutely. You know,
And
pink is just a color, but this is a little off topic. But since you brought it up, I'll explain that with the pink gi. The organization is called International Neoclassical Karate Kabuto Society, INKKS, or as we pronounce it, INKS, INKKS. When me and the other 4 members of the board of directors for INKS were discussing this, we were trying to decide if we wanted to have our own uniforms, and our uniforms would be slightly set apart, something different than standard uniforms for other members of INKS. Ultimately, we did away with it. I don't think we're actually going to have separate uniforms for INK specific. It's not really necessary, and since INKS is all encompassing for traditional karate styles, everybody has their own uniform, or they might be members of other organizations that they would rather wear those uniforms, and that's perfectly fine. So when we were talking about this, I said I want a pink gi, and I want a pink camouflage belt to wear with it, because inks and pinks.
Mhm.
And I started thinking about this. If I wore pink gi, that's like the ultimate. What are you gonna do? It's like, okay, obviously he must be good if he's capable of wearing a pink gi and nobody's gonna mess with him. Or you're wearing a pink gi. What are you, some kind of, that's the kind of a thing you might get, or you think you're a tough guy wearing a pink gi. Prove it. Either way, it works out in my favor. Because one, I
Yeah.
can show my individualism, and two, who's going to mess with me?
Mhm.
So
Her thought process was she didn't know she could have her own individual color, because it never occurred to her that you had one sexual way or another sexual way. She's too young to even understand that. Her question was, I always see the black ones, I always see the white ones, but they don't have to be those 2 colors? I'm like,
no,
no.
really, the traditional white martial arts gi that most of the time you see people wearing, it originated just because that was the cheapest gi to buy. And if you were an instructor and you had to provide gi for your students, that was the cheapest gi to buy, literally.
Mhm.
And that's the reason why white became the color. Black, because they're a little easier to keep clean and you don't see the dirt and the blood stains and all of that stuff. Black
Mhm.
became more associated with Kempo and a lot of Chinese arts, and the traditional Japanese arts are still pretty much white gi, but you'll start to see the Americanized gi styles are popping up in America. They start using other colors, like start using blue for jiu-jitsu. They have blue gis, or you might see people with red gis. So it became a way for schools to do branding for the different colors. We wear blue gis at this school because it matches our branding. Something like that. So no, you don't have to be stuck with black or white. If you're an independent martial artist, such as myself, and such as the other 4 members of the INKS board of directors, you welcome to wear whatever you want, because you're not beholden to any one particular school that says you have to wear this. You can wear whatever you want. If you choose to wear white because that's the traditional color of the gi, that's your choice. If you choose to wear black because you think you look cool in black, then that's your choice. I chose pink because inks and pinks. And for me, it was a tongue-in-cheek comment, and nobody expected me to do it, so I did it.
Mm-hmm. And
And I
I
love it.
can rewind and play this back for her. Thank you. Because now
Yeah.
I have an explanation that I didn't have before.
Well, all that is to say that if you do go to a school and they say, well, here we wear white gi, wear a white gi. If they say we wear a black gi, wear a black gi. If they say, I don't really care what color gi you wear, just show up for class, then wear whatever you want. Wear what makes you comfortable. If it's a red gi, fine. If it's a banana yellow gi, you'll probably stand out. But you're going to get a lot of attention, and that's going to make you much better as a martial artist because you will be in everybody's eyes. So you better get good real quick.
Most definitely. Okay. Before I ask many more questions, because I have probably lots more, and we
I'm
are
sure.
about 10:15, and you probably got to work tomorrow too.
Yep, that is true.
Oh, wait a second. Let's see. Hi.
Mahir Ali. Hello. Is this indoors or outdoors for the Field of Screams?
Field of Screams is an outdoor haunt.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about the Backwood Oddities, which is also a backwood haunt.
Outdoor
And
haunt.
hi.
Hi.
Yeah, an outdoor haunt. But yeah.
Yeah, Chainer's Field of Screams is outdoor, and it's in Botkins, Ohio. And Backwoods Oddities is at night, yes.
Yes. Any other questions, dear sir? They are in Ohio. If you are not in Ohio, you will have to see what haunts you have. You will have to ask them yourselves.
No, recording is not allowed.
No, what I'm saying is if you want to do a walkthrough for your YouTube channel, you usually have to talk with them ahead of time to get the permission.
Yes, that is
If
correct.
not, they normally allow recording. There was a thought process to what I was saying. But
I
yeah.
got
Because I have found walkthroughs of different places online on YouTube. So, okay.
That's true to a point. If you're gonna record, get permission to do so, and usually it's only if you're doing it for social media purposes. And the reason why they would allow you to record is because they are planning on changing up the haunt for the next season anyway, so it's not going to be the same. The reason why they don't typically allow you to record, and this is all haunts, most haunts don't allow you to record, is because if you put it out there, you're just ruining the surprise for everybody else.
True.
So don't record. Let people come and enjoy it on their own and get the full effect of it rather than watching it on social media.
And Stefan, they want to see you. They want to get selfies with you. Pay extra for recording. The odds are they won't let you unless you have talked to them ahead of time. So no.
Well, if you get permission, you're probably not going to be paying any extra for recording. But
I still say you would have to talk to the haunt owners.
Yeah.
Before the opening of the haunt, before you do anything.
I advocate for not recording. Me personally, I don't like it when people come through and they're recording because I think that, putting it up on social media just ruins it for other customers that might be wanting to come through. I'd rather people show up in person than to watch the haunt on a video and not get the full effect. So I'm not a big fan of recording haunts as you go through.
You would have to come early to the haunt and find out.
Yeah. You typically have to talk to the owner or the manager that's there on site. And I can almost tell you, most of them are probably not going to allow you to record. So keep that in mind. But it doesn't hurt to ask. You're already at no. So you never know.
Yeah, and I will let Pyle Hazard, the owner of the haunt you questioned, know that you have questions, and I will refer him back to you to help, because you have commented on YouTube, not YouTube, but Facebook, and we can find where you commented. But either way, it is time to bid you all good night. Thank you all for coming. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Bye.
All right, Ori, you want to say bye before we leave? Huh? Want to say bye? Say bye. Because you're black
Good
and
night,
you
Ori.
fade into the green screen. All right. Yes.